How we doing? Just want to stop in briefly to touch on a subject, not to get too caught up in your head and lose sight of something bigger. There's something going on in the world, and they're trying to make it so that there's sides, and that each side turns on itself using one thing. If it's about Jesus, then it's about which side does that belong on. And if everyone's running away from him and going to church, or everyone's going to church and he's not going, or if everyone's spiritual, but uh, then what's their role? What are they focusing on? What are they healing? If anyone's part of any religion, then they're all being turned on each other, since even in Quran it says that he stayed behind uh, and argued with the priests for long enough, and they were confounded, and his mother left him behind. But it's all about this the mother figure, and abandoning that. And so that's a war that's going on right now. And that's why it's important that we don't just focus on um, who gets something. Like, nobody should be willing to sacrifice the highest ideals for the group. It's a very challenging thing because each of us has to do it individually, but we have to stick together. Like, there's no reason to sacrifice anyone. And um, it all ties to the one within each of us that wakes us up and that we seek, but it's been broken up in the world. And there's a huge gap that needs to be fixed. So, how do we do that? It's good to see everyone out today at church. I was moving. The collective was busy reorganizing because it can't be about one thing, but it has to be about everything. And it's one globe. And have you noticed how the news has had it so that all the powers that be are shifting around, and all the rulers are in different countries or changing their positions? That's very discerning. So I wish everyone well. It's a lot to take in. It's not as easy as just standing up and proclaiming anything or fighting for any one thing, because they claim to Islam recently that it's all of the United States, but then it's a collective, but then it's an individual, but it's not one individual, it's many individuals that are, and so then this is the nation of idols and people who are powerful, and so the United States is the threat, and it's America, and um, and basically saying that we can't work together unless what's the other option? We have to agree with them, but it's one guy speaking on the other side, pointing that finger too, and saying it has to do with the spirit, and America is that spirit, and as if Allah isn't in and of the spirit. It's very concerning. Which is why I have always naturally believed in God. And that's the spirit has been the spirit of mankind that has led me. And so it is and isn't of that. But everyone is easily confused. And my role is that we could all work together in any way. How does one guy get to take the minds of everyone when it's in a negative format like that? Shouldn't it tie everyone together? So I wanted to point that out. Have a wonderful end of bell time. It's time of renewal, which is for cleaning up the past and preparing spring for new harvest. Because it's the past that holds the key to the future, but if it keeps repeating itself, that's the problem with history. And if it can ever be resolved, well, that's the other issue. It has to be resolved. So then what's it all about? So then what about the second coming of Christ? Is always like the dead end of that question. And so how could it be? But he's all of those characters. And he has to pick one, but he can't pick one. And all the lineages are at the dead end of the story. And that's something that not one person easily could resolve. When the easiest answer for anyone would be that he would be dead. But how could the world go on having it never resolved to the point where it could be stated and announced and pardoned? Because then if it's about the Antichrist, well, who could be the Antichrist but Jesus himself? But then how could he be Jesus himself if he was innocent? But then what angel could fall? But then what's an angel if he would be the first man to start a new world? But how could it be a new world if everyone in the world had to wake him up for him to be here? But then he'd get all that in reverse, so he'd be holding everybody's stuff. But then all that stuff would have to do with all the prophecies, and it would look all messed up and be mixed up with violence and stuff, but it's just music, But then it could look any certain way. But then it's terrifying. And so it's to the collective, to all those who are sovereign, like the gentleman who was standing in front of everyone and saying what he was about America. I guess that's what I mean, but like those that are sovereign are over all of us. And so to hold the middle line is kind of where we gotta, and there is no middle line, because what's a lukewarm? If you're passionate and you're filled with the Spirit, and you have to lead, but the Spirit is in and of all people, and it ties back to this thing of mind. What is mind, though? Especially if it came from all the stuff previously written in history. So then there's an issue. But then how could it take off and own the world through a device and use all of us as the devices separately? Then what is it about? Then the media. So then how are we going to resolve mankind appropriately? And it can't be resolved. That'd be like, so it's what came before. How could that be resolved and everyone skip over to the next beat? But what's the next beat? If everything's pinned down and we're all stuck. And certain ones will always be stuck on an old story unless somehow it can come to some resolution. To be announced and moved forward, and everything will have been able to change where it was stuck at. I send my prayers to everyone in the world.